Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, 3-Gun Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reticle Up podcast. I'm here with Josh Bailey. Oh, he's got a ton of titles here. So he's the owner of J.M.B. Gunsmithing, and a good gunsmith at that. He's a rare firearm collector, which we'll talk about today, an avid hunter. He ROs all across the country and also competes in shooting. Anything else I missed?
I've gone bird crazy, but
Cattle owner. How about that?
yeah, got cows and sheep.
All of that.
Keeps
See,
me
we'll get
busy.
into
Yeah,
There's a lot going on up there. And you're in Kentucky. No, Kentucky?
Indiana.
Indiana. I forget. You're one state above.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, I want to start out talking about the fun firearms you own. So I don't know anything. We're going to treat me like a third grader. So there's some really obscure calibers that I've actually been able to shoot of yours, which I couldn't tell you what I shot. So we'll talk about that maybe. But out of all of them, what's your favorite firearm that you own?
Probably my old C96 Mauser handgun, also known as the broom handle. It was the first commercially produced semi-automatic handgun after the bore shot.
Oh, cool. So what year was that?
Mine dates from right around 97, 98, 1897, 1898.
Yeah, that's really cool. How'd you find that one?
In a house down by the Ohio River. The guy had passed away and left the estate to his ex-wife, and she's like, I don't know what any of this is.
Oh,
Make me an offer on stuff.
oof.
So yeah, I wound up with a couple of good ones out of that estate, but it's probably one of my favorite ones to monkey around with and take out and shoot.
That's super cool. So, okay, what were the ones that I shot that I have no idea?
Let's see. That was my IWI, which is a Galil in 7.62 by 39, and it has a suppressor on it. And then my Harrington and Richardson M1 Grand National Match Grade.
That I remember them on Grand. That was sweet. And then for those listening to IWI, that is a solid gun to go and like compete with in AK matches. That's what people are moving to.
Yeah. The guys, Lan and Mike down at Dissident, have really done a lot with those here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they make it
making
really
them more race friendly.
Yeah, well, not necessarily more accurate, but they're tuning those, running them. They're amazing firearms. They just won a bunch of stuff at the AK Masters with those guns.
Doesn't surprise me.
No, yeah, they know what they're doing. Lan and Mike, Dissident Arms, look them up.
Yeah, and if you got $2,400 drop on a shotgun, definitely look them up.
Do that too. Yeah, I'm in the market to move it open. I think shotgun will be the first. It's my favorite gun. I just love it.
Oh, so many open jokes I could make.
Well, we're not there yet. You give it to me in a year. Okay, so all of these unique firearms, how do you come across all of them, or maybe what are some like random places that you have found them other than like estate sales?
The internet. Sometimes they just walk into the shop. Someone will come in and be like, I've got this gun, I don't know what it is. And I get to go down that rabbit hole and kind of find out what it is and where it came from, when it was made, and what it was chambered in, and did someone change the chambering in it, or is it still the original? And
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it's a lot of fun.
So for someone like me, how do you know to look for those things? Like, are you an FFL that like searches these things? Or are you looking at barrel stamps, or like, how do you do that? I have no idea.
A lot of it's done by serial numbers.
Okay.
Most companies kept pretty good records. But anything before 1968 can be kind of dicey on having a serial number.
Yeah.
That's when the federal government said you had to have a serial number.
Gotcha. Interesting. And then like the wood and like all of that, can you date some of that stuff?
You can usually tell if it's original or if it's been refinished or replaced or repaired. A lot of it's just learning to look for little things like, oh, there's this hairline crack here,
Hmm.
or that bluing's too good to be that old, or
Oh.
that finish is too perfect to be worn. It doesn't have the patina anymore.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That's kind of neat. So you're almost like appraising the firearms that come into you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times I do appraisals for insurances and estates and things like that.
What? I didn't know that.
Yep.
Learn something new every day. So do you think most people are shocked to find out something that like their father or their grandfather left them or their spouse and they have no idea what they actually have?
The coolest thing I ever had come in, guy called me up and said, my grandfather and my dad left me a gun. And usually around my area anyway, this means like the old single shot H&R 20 gauge. You know, it's nothing you're going to send your kid to college on. And he comes in with this old ratty box. I was like, oh man, this thing's in parts. This is going to be even worse. And he sets it down. It says Thompson on it. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And got into it. And it was a 1928 Thompson, still in the original packing, had the original magazines, the original paperwork, and
No.
had been mailed via the USPS to his great grandfather.
What?
Yeah.
What? What is that worth these days?
Um, this was several years ago, and it was 50,000.
Oh my God. And I would never sell that. That's something I would keep for the rest of my life.
Well, and what made it even better was he had the paperwork, so I didn't have to call ATF and be like, "Hey guys, you got to come get this and cut it up," because that'd be heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah, that does happen. Oh, wow.
But yeah, it was all legitimate paperwork, and we took it out back and got it hot. It
You
was a
got
good
to shoot
time.
it?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Do you know if he ended up like keeping that gun though?
As far as I know, he did. I told him if he ever wanted to sell it to let me know, and he's never called me back. So
I hope he kept it. If you're listening
maybe
out
he
there,
got a better offer. I don't know.
heck no, that's really cool. Wow. So a lot of these like obscure calibers too. We always tell people, hey, buy a gun that you can find ammo for. Maybe not post-COVID, but in general
Yeah.
life, you still have to hand load all the ammo for these, right? Kind of.
Most of them I have to hand load, or there's a couple I've got that I can't even get ammunition for. They
Oh,
haven't made ammunition since 1941 or early 42 because of the war effort.
mm,
And I've got some rounds, but they're so old. It's about 50-50 chance of them actually firing.
yeah.
And I've shot all but one of them. So
That's my next question. So at least you shot them all, almost.
yeah, I've only got two I haven't shot. And it's a 32 rimfire, and I got my hands on some ammo, but it's really sketchy looking ammo. It's been sitting in a drawer for probably about 80 years.
Yeah, we can't have a
And
gunsmith lose their hands right now.
no. And my other is a bring back from World War II that a family member brought back, and it's a 6.5 Jap.
Oh,
Uh, and I've got brass. I just haven't got any rounds loaded to fire it. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's really cool. So I'm assuming it's a single stage press that you are working with, or even
for that kind of stuff, yeah, it's a single stage, just one piece at a time,
that's cool.
and a lot of them don't get shot a lot because where do you find 6.5 Japanese brass?
Yeah, yeah. Estate
Just
sales.
can take some Creedmoor and cut it down.
Oh, that's
That
always
should
fun.
make Creedmoor shooters, stroke out. Oh, I cut some Creedmoor brass down. Ah,
Yeah, I remember back in the day. This is kind of with that. I have an SKV shotgun that I use for cowboy action, and they cut the barrel length down right. And I remember reading a blog about like how cowboy action shooters are the devil, taking these guns that aren't made anymore and cutting them. We're like, sorry.
People get all upset about like the Mausers, and so many of them got sporterized.
Yeah.
People don't realize how many million there still are left.
Yeah. Or the fact that I think, you know what? I shoot mine more than they even shoot theirs. So I don't want to hear it. Mine are loved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we all learned on something. I did a lot of things with Moe's and the Gants when I first started working. So
I shot one of those. My uncle has one of those. We cleaned it with hot water and Dawn dish detergent. Does that sound correct?
yep, yep. Trying to get that old corrosive powder out.
Yeah, that was wild. I was like, oh, okay. I've never done this. This is a thing.
Yeah, that's the same way I clean muzzle loaders too. So
Neat. Okay. So most people, yeah, don't know that that is what you do. Like it's not a joke.
yeah, just I've cleaned SKSs out with boiling water.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That
So,
were packed in cosmoline.
and what?
In cosmoline, it's a really thick preservative grease.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I learned something else new. Okay. So out of all these firearms too, which one is the loudest go boom?
Um, if you ask some of my friends, it's my 3-gun rifle. I got a pretty nasty older comp on it or break.
Mhm.
My 416 Rigby is definitely the most punch I've got right now.
That's wild. What do you use that for?
I'm planning on going to Africa with it next year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, going after Cape Buffalo, hopefully
Nice.
in South Africa, and that should be a fun trip.
So walk me through that. That's actually a dream, a bucket list item of mine. How do you book a trip like that or a hunt like that? How do you prepare for all of that to make sure, your gun works or your ammo works or yeah, you can hit that animal or I have no idea.
Yeah, you don't chintz out on stuff when it comes to dangerous game hunting. It's really not a good idea. It's a lot of premium ammo and learning to shoot big, heavy recoiling rifles. Like my 416, about 5 rounds is all I want out of
Gotcha.
in the setting, and that's off of sticks. I don't shoot it off the bench.
Oh, okay.
And it's $12 a round to shoot. So, and that's on the reloading price is about $5 or $6 a round.
Okay.
The real premium stuff goes on up to like $18 to $20 a round.
Wow. So what scope are you using for that?
For that one, I went with a Conquest 4 from Zeiss. It's 1.4x24.
Okay.
Real similar to our 3-gun scopes. It's a true 1x, and yeah,
Cool.
you're getting within like under 100 yards. Really, under 80 is ideal.
That's neat. So have you booked a guide or?
We're in the process of doing that now. I have some friends that have gone this year, and one of the guys that is going with us is from South Africa, who is soon to be my stepdad. And another buddy that might be going did a tour of duty in South Africa when he was in the Army.
Oh, sick. So you know the people that know the land, know the place, and been there.
Yeah. My soon stepdad speaks Afrikaans and I think Swahili and
What?
something else. Yeah.
That's so cool. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, it should be a good time. And my mom's not. My mom's going, but she's not too sure about watching us go and actually take Cape Buffalo.
Maybe after she eats it. it'll be
Well, yeah, it'll be fine. She wants to go see the animals and stuff, and I'm like, well, you can go and see animals, and watch us whack a few of them, and eat them later.
There you go. Sorry, Mom. So, going back to the collecting of firearms too, are you looking for any specific caliber gun right now, or have your eye on any that you want to buy?
There's still a couple on my want list. One's called a drilling gun. It's from Europe, and it's typically two 16 gauge shotgun barrels over a 9.3.
Walk me through that. You're talking about there's a barrel underneath whatever 9.3.
There's a thing of a double barrel shot side by side shotgun,
Okay.
and then mount a rifle barrel underneath it.
So on a one trigger pull, does it all come out?
No, they're selectors, and they're quite complicated, and you don't see them, and when you do, they're more than I want to spend on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they did it to get around European gun laws,
By
because
calling it a shotgun.
well, no, in Germany you could only own one firearm. So you wanted something
all in one, like the male shampoo and conditioner and body wash and toothpaste.
Yeah, so you had your two shotgun barrels for hunting small game, and you had your 9.3 to hunt the chamois and stuff that they hunt over in Europe.
That's cool. That is cool. I like that. That was a man that invented that for sure.
Yeah, and the other one, if I ever get that big money that I just don't know what to do with, I want to get a Holland and Holland. I've handled one.
Yep.
And have you ever seen Holland and Hollands?
Yeah, I just shot one last or 2 weekends ago, and it kicked. It hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
but it was cool.
And the doubles can go up to like $250,000 a piece.
Oof, that'd be neat though.
And they're still making them.
Yeah,
but it takes them anywhere from a year to 3 to make it.
Yeah, so
it's
that's
all hand done in England.
That's the dream. How do you learn to work on all of these? Like, how do you already know, or do you just learn when you get it?
I learned a lot of it from my grandfather, my maternal grandfather. He did a lot of gun stockings and bluings, and was a master carpenter. And he lived right across the road. So growing up, that was kind of the babysitter. And I'd go over and hang out with Grandpa in the workshop, and whatever he was doing that day, I got to learn about.
That's really cool. Is he still around?
No, he's been gone about 10 years now.
Dang. That's really neat that you got that opportunity, though.
Oh, definitely.
That's neat. Well, on that sad note, we'll keep going on here. So you mentioned too that you've been, shooting guns for, God, how many years now?
About 35.
Yeah. Who first taught you?
30, and I'm 39. So I first shot when I was about 3 or 4.
That's cool. Who taught you?
Grandpa.
Yep. Same one?
Yep.
Yeah.
As soon as I was old enough to line up the sights, he put the sandbag out, and we started shooting pop cans on the fence post. I mean, you can't get much Americana than that.
He'd be proud of where you're at today,
Oh, I think so. He got to see me get started in the gunsmithing and 3-gunning and hunting, but he wasn't in the best of health by that point. So
yeah.
And I still have a bunch of the tools, like all my checkering tools were his. So I still use those when I work on stocks.
Yeah, explain what that is for say somebody that's never even heard that word before, and how that can also increase like the value of a firearm.
So the checkering is just a line pattern that's made in the wood, and it's mostly there for grip, but it's also there for looks. And certain patterns can increase the value because there's more lines and it takes longer to do it. So you'll see them on the higher end guns. And the condition, you can tell a lot about how a gun's been handled through the checkering. Like if it's all masked flat, it's been thrown around. But if it's just kind of smooth, you can tell it's like been carried in the field for hours hunting birds or hunting deer, whatever it is.
That's neat. That's neat. And how I want to say, like, looking at those patterns and stuff, can you almost tell like maybe whose artwork it was or whose craftsmanship sometimes like by these people, that do that work?
On the engravings, some of those you can particularly know. Uh, Winchester had several engravers that were quite famous, and I can't remember their names at the moment. I don't have any of their work
That's okay.
because I can't afford it.
Yeah. Because after a certain
And
price point, like on the shotguns, for example, like it's really about the engraving at that point, right?
yeah, and who did it, and you can get into internal engraving and timed screws, and I'm learning to engrave, but I'm still at the like very beginning of learning how to do that.
Yeah. Cool. What's next?
Got to use that art school education for something.
If only your art teacher saw now it's for firearms.
Some of them know, some of them really don't like it, but
Yeah. No.
each their own.
Yeah. So, okay, so you've competed. Yeah, you've RO'd a ton of matches. So I want to get into that competition world too. Like, what was your first competition that you ever like shot, or first style of competing?
4-H shotgun shooting, trap, and ski when I was probably about 9,
Neat.
10, somewhere in there.
You're like the
Uh,
third person that's mentioned 4-H head shooting. I had no idea.
we were actually a test bed for it in the state of Indiana, so we were one of the first counties to get it. And I was in it the first several years until, teenage years when other things start dominating your life.
Yeah. That's so cool though. Do they still have those programs around?
Yes. They're much smaller than they used to be, but that's true with all of 4-H. Kids are so busy with their iPhones and tablets, and you don't see them. 4-H is kind of a dying thing, unfortunately.
Sucks. I would have killed to have known that that's a thing too. And like did you ever do the program where they did like raise like pigs, to slaughter and eat, or just the shooting side?
I did woodworking, and I think I showed goats one year. In fact, I know I showed goats one year, but I had pygmy goats when I was a kid.
Oh,
And I still have some dwarf Nigerians that wander around chewing off stuff. So.
they're so cute.
Yeah, you say that until you have to go put them in for the 15th time in a day.
I love it. I love it. So what all in the shooting world, like what all competitions have you shot? What all disciplines? And is there something that you haven't?
I've done 3-gun, skeet, trap, a couple pistol matches. I shot some falling steel years and years ago, probably over a decade ago. Never shot the extreme long range matches. I've been invited a few times.
What?
But it's, like, hey man, you want to come out to Casper, Wyoming? And this is like on a Monday, and they're talking about like being there on a Thursday. I'm like, I don't think I can just pick up and leave quite that easy. And I have to borrow gear for it because I don't have anything set up for that kind of match.
Yeah, my friend just let me know today. Actually, she got invited to do like the photography at the ELR match in, I think, I want to say New Mexico. And she wants to shoot that stuff, and I think that's really cool. And of course, she would be borrowing because, like you said, that's really a niche market to find somebody that knows their stuff and has it.
Well, and just to get your foot in the door in that sport it makes 3-gun look cheap.
Yeah. For those listening, like there's long range and precision rifle series and all that, but we're talking about extreme long range shooting. So these people are like king of the mile and the 2-mile and further out, and it's just absolutely insane, cool math, science, ballistics, like far beyond our level.
Oh yeah, the math, and it's trig and calculus, and you're putting in the spin drift depending on which way your rifling is, and the spin of the earth in space, and
it's for real, like it's so cool, but so much.
I'm lazy when it comes to ballistics. I got a program on my smartphone, I just type it in there.
Yeah, I'll let my Kestrel do the work.
Yep that and Straylock Pro.
Yep, I have both. There you go. So then as far as like all the shooting and stuff, I know you shoot 3-gun, obviously that's how we met too. But what's your favorite competition to shoot?
3-gun.
There we go. That's our thing.
There's something about getting out there and running all 3 guns. I mean, like when I say dumpster fired matches, I remember the first time I shot pro at Pro-Am when it was at Rock Castle. So this was probably 2016-ish, 17, somewhere in there. And like 2 days before going, I broke 2 bones in my hand. I fractured this bone and this bone.
Ooh.
And so what did I do but tape it together, and went and shot anyway.
Yeah, spit on it, rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, and it was still like weekend loading back then. So I'm like, for every 4 shells I pulled out of my belt, like 3 of them went on the ground. It was bad.
Oh man.
But I had a blast. And
awesome.
Yeah. I love shooting 3-gun. I meet some of the coolest people doing it.
Absolutely. People have no idea. They're amazing people, fun people, totally different industries, people you would not expect to shoot 3-gun, right? Like
yeah. I mean, you get everybody from like the doctor to the SWAT officer and the house mom.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know ladies that come out and shoot that are like, oh, I have a job and take care of my kids or whatever. And every weekend they're out there like slinging all this lead down range, just having a blast.
Yeah, it is so badass. When it comes to 3-gun and like major matches, what's your favorite style of stages?
It depends. I used to really hate jungle runs, but I've kind of grown to like those, especially if it's just shotgun and pistol and you can just like hose through it.
So much fun. That's my favorite. Jungle run, I always shoot clean too. So I guess I can find the target somehow. I knock on wood. I have Great Lakes of Michigan coming up or whatever. Indiana, I don't know the match anymore.
Oh yeah. Great Lakes 3-gun championship, I think is what it's called.
And Mark
Kosik's match.
Yeah, he's got like all these steel, like white steel, black steel, like stuff you can't see, just hidden in the forest. People miss targets all the time, can't see them just on the light, like the daytime, that you shoot it. It can change. So
yeah. As someone who's RO'd a lot of matches, when you guys shoot the jungle runs, like it's already kind of been mowed down. When we shoot the jungle runs, we're like, there's supposed to be 4 targets on this side. Where is that 4th target? And you're sitting there looking around. You're like, well, I guess I just have to keep going. And, you just keep going because you may or may not see it because all the weeds are still in front of it.
Yeah, that's true. And then sometimes too, like being the first shooter has its advantages, whatever, when they have like freshly painted steel. It's nice.
Yeah. Did you ever shoot an Andy Horner match?
Oh yeah, where the daylight just changed the targets. You sometimes see them, sometimes you don't, and tough is tough. Yeah.
Well, paint targets? No, we're not painting targets.
Everything's grayscale, pretty much.
Yeah. And then you got Bruce who will do the same thing and make it left-handed.
Yes. Yeah. Make that the high value target.
Yeah. I like that high value target style and minimum reset though.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things that just tears you up when you're shooting competitions, the reset.
Yeah, I won't mention the match, but we had to go all the way down a tunnel, a hill to the very end to do clays, like setting up. It's like, dude, we all have to wait for that to be done. We should be clearing guns and resetting and not at the end. Bruce is brilliant. So yeah.
Yeah. And you're seeing more of those minimal reset matches, which I think is a good thing. And it speeds it along. And anytime you speed it along, people are having more fun.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh God, I gotta go reset the stage and everything. You're like, looking at your phone, you're like, I've already put in 13 miles today. Only 3 more stages to go today.
Yeah. I talked about this past weekend with people of like, I did 25 miles in 2 days at a 3-gun match. People are like, yeah, I believe it. It's, you might watch or walk in a major like USPSA match 10 miles. Like I'm talking about 25 miles. It's like just resetting.
Oh yeah. For, maybe 10 minutes of shooting.
Yes, we always do that breakdown. I never want to hear the actual time spent.
Yeah, but so much of the fun's in between when you're standing back there
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yep.
goofing off with your squad mates in between shooters.
100%. When I look back at my life, I know those are some of the best times I had. Um, okay. I feel like this is your division. Have you ever shot heavy metal?
I haven't. I live where it's really hard to find matches. Most of the closest match is about 45 minutes. After that, it's 3 hours and up
Yeah.
minimum one way. So that's 6 hour round trip.
Yeah.
So that makes it hard to get to matches. But I recently got an FAL. So I'm now ready to shoot heavy. I just got to find a double stack 45 to borrow.
Hell yeah. All right, people listening, let's get him into heavy metal. This is like the division made for Josh and his rare firearms and all of his like random obscure calibers. I'm for real. You should just do a 10 gauge on shotgun on top of all of that too.
You buying the ammo?
I will find it just to freaking like video this.
Hey,
you know?
Chad, I'm going to use goose loads on all your steel.
Oh, I hope he listens to this. That's awesome. That would be hysterical. Your shoulder, though, would hurt so bad.
Yeah, I'd probably have to have my shoulder worked on after that.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Dylan usually will help you out. Chiropractor,
Yeah.
he's heavy, you know? That's his thing.
Well, I guess you saw Dylan got hurt at a USPSA match.
Yeah, we're making fun of him, which we feel so bad about, like, or not me, but community, getting hurt in a USPSA match. But now he can't shoot Great Lakes this weekend. So I was supposed to see him this weekend and do a podcast. And dude, it's not good.
Yeah, Dylan's fun times.
Great guy.
We always have a ton of fun at Gen 3.
There's shenanigans that go down at Gen 3.
No. No shenanigans.
You want to share any of those Gen 3 stories?
Oh, I remember a certain match director getting cattle prodded by his daughter. And that wasn't the only time he got hit with a cattle prod that weekend. So if you see Chad Francis out and about, ask him about the cattle prod.
So funny. Absolutely.
Or tactical camo.
Yeah, we're
not going to share that story here.
No, that was a select group of people.
Oh.
Still can't believe that was real. Like, I just wish I could have.
Oh, no, I can. With him, I can believe it.
This is true. Oh, yeah.
He's one of the people, like, he's one of the people who kind of got me into 3-gun and gave me a chance to be an RO. And I remember the first year I went out, it was the last year they had it at the lake, which would have been, I think, 18. And I went out there with one of my buddies from up here that knows Chad because he was living in Missouri for a while. I walk into the hotel room, it's Friday morning and it's pouring rain. Or I guess it was Saturday morning. It's pouring rain outside. A tropical storm hit the whole match. Oof. We were out there like in tablets wrapped up in bags and trying to run them. And my buddy goes, "Man, I got to go home." I said, "What do you mean you got to go home? You're a CRO for our stage." He's like, he's a farmer and he had a fire in one of his buildings.
Oh God.
That had equipment and seed in it that was worth a silly amount of money.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't think about how much farmers have wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
So I get out to the range and Chad's like, where's your buddy? And I was like, dude, he had to go home. He had an emergency. And Chad's like, I don't have a CRO to put out there. And I was like, dude, I got a rule book and a radio. This is my second major I'd ever RO'd. And that's how I got my first gig as a chief for a stage was, an emergency. And I had a rule book and a radio, and it's been downhill from there.
Cool. That's awesome. That's a learning curve too, pretty quick, you know?
Yeah, luckily, most of the rules, even in 3-gun, are pretty straightforward and simple. Just don't point a loaded gun at anybody.
Yeah.
Don't load your gun until you're told to load your gun.
Big boy rules.
That's right.
Big boy rules. So why do you enjoy competing? What's your why?
Well, those of you who know me know I'm a mid-pack shooter at best on a good day.
Hmm.
I really like getting to know the people that do in it, and I take and apply it to hunting. Shooting 3 guns made me a better hunter because I'm used to getting in for example, last year, the buck I took during deer season came in a place I wasn't expecting one to come in. He came in and came across, and I was using a 6.8 SPC AR. And I had to get into this funny squat position and try to build my position on this ground blind without making too much noise.
Right.
He was probably 75 yards. And I broke the first shot in this little messed up position I was in. I thought, he didn't flinch, he didn't kick. I thought, man, I missed. And he started to turn right as I broke that first shot. So I put another shot downrange. I was like, well, maybe I hit him, maybe I didn't. He only went about 100 yards and fell over dead. I discovered that I hit him not once, but twice. Once while on the run and once while static.
Holy crap. That's cool.
And, you know, we cursed the match directors that are like, okay, now you're going to get up on this wobbly bridge and stand on one foot and shoot with your weak hand. And it's like, I hate you so much right now. But then, you know, I've been put in a position where, well, my dinner's out there. Yep. And the only shot I have is standing on one foot with my weak hand.
While scratching my nose.
And it's wobbly. You know, and it's 10 below zero, and you're like, oh. Well, this, you know, so it helps you be a better hunter.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a stage plan with hunting, but really, does that go how you think it's going to?
No, and like you said, with shooting, you're under pressure. So it does help that like pressure induced stuff, which I don't care who you are. When you see a buck or any sort of doe or a deer come out, you're excited.
Oh yeah, especially if you've sat out there for like 40 hours looking at squirrels run back and forth and chipmunks and
or turkeys when they're not in season.
Turkeys are the worst.
They are. They're so mean.
They bust you every time. Make so much noise, and turkeys.
Yep. That's awesome though. And you know, you should have been able to call your shots. I know it's really hard when you see that, you know, a deer and he doesn't move. So that's really odd. But that's one thing too, like when you hear steel, we don't have that. So many people don't check their shots on paper, right? They don't know where they're hitting. They don't have their gun zeroed. So, you know, when you have that confidence too, you should be able to call your shots, Josh, and know that you hit it.
Yeah. My theory is, you know, if you can't hit a plate at steel 6 inches by 6 inches at 50 yards, put the gun down. And go back to like the fundamentals of marksmanship.
Yeah.
Like a competent hunter should be able to hit a 6x6 plate at 50 yards.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, every once in a while, you're going to have some weird round that throws. Maybe it was crimped too tight or too loose, or it's an old round. I mean, things happen.
Yeah.
I took a buddy hunting. He's yet to get his first deer. We finally got him on a deer. And we had 2 come in. I said, all right, you shoot first and I'll shoot second. And I heard him take the slack up out of his trigger, and I heard the firing pin drop. So instinctively, I shot next. And I never heard his rifle go off. He bumped it out of battery.
Oh.
In the blind, and brought it out just enough that it would drop the firing pin, but it wouldn't hit the primer.
Gotcha.
It was a freak thing. And he's still kind of bitter about that. But
hey, you got to check it out before you go.
Well, and you know, I've missed him. It happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just like anything else. You think, oh yeah, I can hit that static steel sitting there at 15 yards. No, you can't. You're gonna sit there and burn like 4 shotgun bird shot shells at it, not realize you just burned all your time. And
oh yeah.
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 over
Sometimes you just need to
10
move
second
on.
penalty.
Don't go to war
Yeah.
with something in the
Engage
forest.
and move.
Yeah. If there was one rule, maybe one rule, and pick your competition in shooting competitions or maybe 3-gun, what would you change? What would it be?
I'll probably catch flack for this, but I do away with stillboard. I don't know if you've ever seen a stillboard shoot, but it's quite possibly the most boring type of shooting I've ever done. They put a mark on a board and you shoot out with a shotgun, and whoever's closest to the mark wins.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like shoot offs, or like even when you watch soccer, football, and like it comes down to penalty kicks. Like what?
Yeah.
That would suck.
This is even more atrocious to me. A lot of the rules I thought should be changed have kind of been changed over time. Like if you accidentally mess up your candy cane and you slug the buck and buck the slug, used to that send you home. I remember when that was a DQ immediately. Like you were done. I almost bought it that way a couple of times. I can't think of anything, different kinds of matches, different kind of rule sets. Like Bruce Davidson's helping matches are, I think, a great thing. And I think going out there and standing on your own alone is a great thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny we were talking about candy cane, me and a buddy the other day. Hey, if you don't know your candy canes, don't do them. But like I did watch someone slug a steel popper from like 5 yards and meant to be bird. That still sends you home.
Oh yeah, that'll send you home.
And it bought you that popper to take home.
Yeah, you just bought a popper that I know somebody that bought like 3 of them at one match.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, okay. Age-old question then to this argument. Should red dots be in TAC ops?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
No.
Because then what's the point? Let's just like all have guns that are race guns and we're all going to be out of bracket,
Yeah. And then where do you stop with that? Charging handles on your pistol, compensators.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll do away with that 170 millimeter magazine and let you all run the 33 round Glock stick.
Yes. There you go. Exactly.
Now I want to see you prone out with that 33 rounder stuck in there because
freaking funny.
Or try to go through a little tube.
So for those listening, I've done something dumb like that before. No, Bruce. Okay, Bruce Davidson. And Mountain State 3-gun. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. So he runs open, okay, and he's got a bipod on his rifle. And there was like bench shooting where you had to shoot long range targets. There's like 20 of them out there. So dumbass didn't realize that his magazine is taller than the bipod. He thought he had it all figured out. He's gonna have this comfortable shooting position. He gets up there. I'm in tears. And he's like resting and wobbling on the rifle mag. I mean, he's already started. He's already on the clock. So at the end of it,
you're committed at that point. That's the point you're going, man, I should have bought that D60.
Oh yeah. No, we were cracking up because magazine choice is like 90% of your thing in rifle shooting. If you're going to be prone, if you're going to be on a platform, if you're going to be like in any sort of situation, no.
I always have some 10 rounders and 20 rounders in my bag for just such occasions.
I've got mine packed this weekend. Yep.
I've got, 2 rifle targets here. Do I really need that D60 or the big 40 round P mag sticking out? No. I don't even need a 30. If I can't hit 2 targets in 20 shots, my squad mates need to talk to me.
You need to go back to fundamentals, like you just said.
Yes.
Go back. Oh, I love it. So maybe the hard question, maybe you don't. I actually don't know. Do you have a DQ story yet?
I have come very dangerously close to DQing several times. One of them was a 180 trap at a shotgun match. And I got turned around on where I was in the snow fence walls and just about turned around and pointed my shotgun at the entire squad.
Oh, how'd you get turned around?
I saw a couple of my friends and their eyes were getting really big and I thought, oh no, and turned the other way because I could see them starting to like that look of panic and being like, no.
Yeah.
God. I've almost ate it off of a prop, running downhill and standing on it was a stage, and I wound up actually running the stage for that match. It was last year at Gen 3. And you ran downhill and you had to get on this stump at the bottom of this little hill, and you had I believe it was Texas Star and 2 plate racks. You had to clear with your pistol. I started on that stump and my feet started just going out, and I was trying to balance myself. And the guy that was running me said, "Man, I almost knew what brand of ammunition you were running."
Ooh.
My finger was outside of the trigger guard and it was on safe.
Yeah.
But it had to do with the momentum getting down that hill and onto that stump. And it was morning and it was slick.
Yeah.
We actually had.
The gun is like a range of motion, almost like.
Yeah. I was using it as almost like a counterbalance, trying not to fall and break my face because, after you went off the stump, it was down in this ravine that was full of briars. So
Oof.
Really didn't want to go that route. But
yeah.
That happened. And I've only ever had one DQ in all the matches I've worked. And it was at Gen 3 2018. And it was a really small squad. There was like 3 guys on it. And one of them said, "Oh, how's the match been?" It's been going really good. I was pretty stressed out being a chief range officer for the first time. And, we've not had any DQs down here. It's been going great. And I couldn't even tell you the guy's name, but was running one of those crazy open holsters that's like skeletonized.
Yep.
And he missed putting his latch up. Shooter ready, stand by, beep, bang, bang, bang. Next thing I see is his pistol and coming out of the holster and flying down range and skidding to a stop. It's like, stop. You can get him stopped. He's like, what happened? I'm like, your pistol's out of its holster and it's hot.
Yeah.
So, of course, work, I had to go home. But
yeah. The race holsters is something that they're great for USPSA or for really still challenge if you're going to walk around with them, holstered, but they're not for 3-gun, especially when you think about having a reholster. You're gonna have to reholster, make it perfectly on that mount, put the latch down. In my opinion, I'll say opinions. We've talked about this before with other guests. You should have a hood on your 3-gun rig holster. Even if it has the best retention in the world, right? What if something like we get in cars, we get in buses, we get in all of these different positions. If it pulls that handle out, it's not as retention friendly as you think.
No. Good holsters, just something you got to bite the bullet on and buy.
Yeah.
And I run a Weber Tactical with a hood on it, and I've slid through barrels, I've slid through cars, I've done all sorts of foul things to that holster in practice and matches, and it just keeps on going.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you do that, folks. So you were talking about earlier how your competition shooting can sometimes like transition and help you in the hunting world. What are some other things that you see that competition shooting can help replicate, about the real world?
It definitely gives you the adrenaline dump that you're going to get when you hunt. Like, adrenaline's always a thing. And most of us that shoot competitively have a thing for adrenaline.
No.
I have some friends that are straight up adrenaline junkies. I think that it puts you under pressure, and that can apply to self-defense, hunting, even just working in business, I've got to have this right now type deal, and it puts pressure on you. And if you put yourself under pressure, a lot of times you've got the skills to manage it.
Yeah. Yep.
A big thing with shooting is time management, knowing when it's time to cut your losses and move on too.
100%. That's something people don't really talk about. We're talking about like transitioning, shooting, or like, waiting on an animal or perfect accuracy, but you're not thinking about the rest. You already brought up a great point. Something else someone taught me this weekend is tension. So like at a match, if you like screw up your face and you're really tight, or you've got your hands ready to grab your holster and they're all like in this position, you're creating tension that's going to actually like take your brain waves away from what you should be focused on, to focus on that and make it actually harder for you to shoot. So I think that was perfectly a great example of what you said, knowing when to cut your losses, knowing when to move on, knowing how to balance even to like, should you have made that makeup shot for time, or should you have just, had the faster time because the points would have evened out, all of that stuff. Yeah.
I'm still trying to master that.
Yes. It's a lot of math.
And everybody I talk to that shoots three guns says that, the management's one of the biggest things. And that's why there's people that write books about it.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the USMC team, the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, they all have teams for a reason.
Yep.
And they're taking what they're learning from competitive shooting and applying it to their business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. What do you think that some of the things maybe that competition shooting really cannot replicate, maybe that some people think that they can,
Just that the unknown split second timing of stuff. Like I've sat there for hours in a deer blind seeing nothing. And I'm sitting there and I'm really bored. I'm sitting there, messing around on my phone, not paying attention. And I'll look up and there's a deer. Like you don't hear it come in, it just appears. It's like, okay, now I've got to deal with that. Or you kick one loose.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're bird hunting, it's the same thing. You never know when the bird's going to flush or which way it's going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's something we really can't replicate in competition.
Yeah.
Easily. I've often thought it'd be fun, and I'm sure those people who are really into making their stage plans would hate it. Have like half of a course where you could walk through and see it. And the other half of the course, you have to shoot on your first, like the first time you see it is when you're shooting it.
So we have those back home, like blind stages. So we did one where there was actually like a forest run. And I thought that was really cool because there's a couple things going on is that, like you said, it's fair for everyone. Stage planning is great, but going in and having to actually acquire targets, knowing when your sights are aligned on it, right? Completely blind. It's not like I'm looking for a rock on the ground and that's where I'm going to go to. And that's where that target's going to be. No, like you've got to figure it out on the fly. And like in the real world, you're going to have to probably reload at some point if you're in a fire point, and you're not going to have like a planned reload in this spot. So
yeah, you can't be like, oh, during the middle of this firefight crossing this road, I know I'm going to have to up my magazine and insert a new one. This is not the time to be doing that.
No,
but
no.
Sometimes you don't have an option.
Yeah. So I think there are some stages out there I've never seen it at a major match, right? I think some people would probably get upset by that, but I have seen them at locals.
Yeah. I could definitely see why people would get upset at a major, pay that kind of money. And then it's like, you're asking us to do what?
Well, what if the pros do poorly and then the amateurs shine, Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our mid-pack time.
Right. Time for the mid-pack to rise.
Oh, that's really funny. Oh, I love it.
It's like Star Wars, only worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how would you reset it then? It would have to be like those reactive targets that or just ding, they don't fall,
A Bruce Davidson special right there. No reset.
I like it. And the other thing that competition can replicate, obviously, is if people are shooting back.
Yeah, that's not something you ever really want to get involved in.
No, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so you were talking about a little bit earlier and hitting at it. So you've been bird hunting, and an upland bird, which you're gonna about to teach me about that. So I know nothing about dove or quail hunting, or I don't know what other upland bird there is. So tell me what you're talking about when you say upland bird hunting, how to hunt them, and all of that, as if you're talking to like a 5-year-old.
Okay. I actually just got into bird hunting in the past year and a half or so.
Okay.
You think somebody that's shot like all this trap and skeet would be into bird hunting, but
Yeah.
See, here in the winter of 78, we had a huge blizzard and they got like 6 feet of snow in places and it killed a lot of the wild birds.
Okay.
So we really don't have them here. But your upland birds, and we're getting them back now, are like quail and pheasant, chucker, to a lesser extent, dove.
Okay.
And there's subspecies of quail and subspecies of the pheasant and the chuckers. A lot of what we do is what's called a put in place hunt. Like you go and you buy 10 birds and they have these fields where they go out and put the bird, you take them and you tuck their head underneath their wing and you roll them and you set them out. And the hunters don't know where they have all these places they'll put them. And you go out there with your dog and you let it off and you let it start doing its thing. They'll start running their patterns. And then they'll get on point.
Mhm.
And they'll start pointing at wherever the bird is. And you'll start walking towards it. And the bird will usually flush. And pheasant usually goes straight up. Quail usually stay a little bit lower and zip side to side. Chuckers can do kind of a mixed bag of that. You also have, what's the other one? We don't have them here. Ruffled grouse.
Okay. No idea.
I've seen one of them my entire life in Indiana. Like we don't have any of them. So a lot of it is that sustainable hunting of birds because there's so few wild birds that make it. If everybody went bird hunting, there'd be no birds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun hobby. It really picked up during the COVID pandemic with social distancing because you get to stand like 12 feet apart and you're out in the open air and you get to keep the birds you find and
that's cool.
Kill. And a certain number of them escape and oftentimes start wild coveys.
Oh, that's neat. So it's kind of a conservational thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps prop up the numbers of the quail, particularly, because they're more native.
Yeah.
Than the others.
So where would someone like go and sign up or find more information on upland bird hunting?
You can usually find game preserves, particularly in the Midwest. There are places that, Friday, Thursday through Monday, they hunt birds. They have dogs you can use. And you pay a set fee. There's several in Ohio. There's several in Indiana and several in Kentucky that I know of.
Cool. I like
it. It's an excuse to get the over-under shotguns out.
That was my next question. Yeah, what guns do you use?
I usually run a Winchester 101. I've got a Superpose and a Pigeon, and they're both in 12 gauge.
Cool.
Another person that hunts with us hunts with a 20, 28, especially for like the quail because they're so small.
Yeah.
12 can really bust them up. You'll see some 16s as well.
Neat.
And you see over under side by sides. I've started taking my 3-gun and shotgun out there with me.
Wait, but there's not, do you have to put a plug in though to hunt those or?
No. They're not migratory birds.
Okay.
On the place and the put and hunt, the place and hunt. You don't have to, there's no round them.
Okay. That was my next question too. Cool.
I'd probably though put take the extended tube off just so I didn't have the dragging through the weeds and the muck.
Yeah, true. I have a cowboy action gun that I actually have a belt for. It's double barrel, side by side, but I can load fast and shoot and like unload and it's so fast. Hey, it might work.
Side by side works. Usually only get about one shot a piece at a bird.
Yeah.
There was one last year. We just got done. We'd unloaded, coming out of the field. We'd been putting them in one of the other guys' pouch, and all of a sudden we look over and there's this chucker running. and our guns are sitting there broke over our shoulder, like typical bird hunter pose.
Yep.
And both of us dropped our shotguns down, shoved one in the bottom, and came up. And the guy was with missed, and I managed to hit it, but it was autopilot. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't paying any attention. It was just, oh, that bird is running away from us, and it just came out of that pouch. It was just unconscious.
That's
Oops.
awesome. But the guide was impressed or wasn't impressed?
Well, it was my soon-to-be stepdad. It was just one of those things. Like it happens once in a great while, but you don't see it all that often, and it's really funny when you get to see it happen.
Gotcha. Is there any other gear that you need to bring, or are you wearing one of those like vests with the pockets for the ammo?
Yeah. We usually wear, particularly during deer season, you wear your hunter orange.
Yeah. Don't want to get shot.
Don't want to be wandering around in a brown jacket out in the tree lines. But yeah, I've seen guys do it with shotgun shells in their pocket.
Cool. Yeah. What you got?
Yeah, run what you got. And like I'm not a big gun dog person.
Yeah.
I like my German Shepherds, but I enjoy bird dogs.
Yeah.
They're not I haven't learned how to train one or anything like that yet. I'm getting ready to learn that. Hopefully here in the next year or two. So
cool. Like it.
It's a fun little hobby, and it's slightly cheaper than free gun.
You still get to eat.
That's right. You get to eat whatever you kill, and I tell you what, you roast or smoke some of these birds, and they're delicious.
They're so good. We
you wrap them in bacon,
all of that. We used to do like Cornish hens too for Christmas dinners, and we would go duck hunting and we would eat that fresh duck. Like that was our thing. I went duck hunting a lot over the holidays, and that's what we'd eat. We got dinner. I think a lot of people don't realize how many people do legit live, hunting to table. Like they're not going out.
Oh yeah.
Like they are legit fishing for that, hunting for deer or duck or whatever for their food.
I'd say 90+ % of the protein I consume in a year is raised. I either raise it myself or I'm harvesting it naturally.
Yeah. That's awesome. I wish I had that close one day.
You never know.
It's true. So switching gears actually into that. I know you have a couple of different hobbies. We'll talk about the beekeeping. And I want to go into, since you already brought it up, raising cattle. So I know that you raise cattle, you humanely slaughter them a lot better than a lot of these animals are treated, and provide the meat for yourself. So how did you learn to do that?
I've lived on a farm most of my life, all except the few years I was away in college, and the first year or two I was alive, and I don't remember those. But I grew up and we did 100 chickens every summer.
Wow.
We slaughtered 100 chickens every summer. We did our own turkeys for Thanksgiving. We did hogs.
Cool.
And went fishing. Went rabbit hunting, you went squirrel hunting, and you got to eat it.
Yeah. I think
so. It started, with small stuff, and then went bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Are you actually did you actually have the meat hangers and actually skin them and then actually quarter them, or the butcher process? Like who did all of that?
I do all my own. I do most of my own pork and all my own deer. The cattle, to be honest, are so big.
Yeah.
And the last ones we did one was 1,700 pounds and one was like 1,400 pounds.
Good Lord.
And it's just more than I can handle. So I had a locker do the cut up on it.
Cool. Yeah.
And they also have the time to hang it and age it.
Yes.
Because you don't want fresh butchered beef. tough. It's not very good.
No, yeah, that's like across the board. As far as like raising them yourself, do you have to have certain, this is probably a dumb question, but like certain certifications or like, I don't know, certain living conditions, all of that? Like, how do you go out and buy a cow?
Well, uh, go down to the neighbor's house and buy a cow usually, um, or a heifer, which is an unbred. The cow has not had a calf yet.
Mhm.
Um, you have to have enough ground for them to graze on. You gotta have somewhere for them to get in and out of the weather. You gotta have access to water, and you gotta have a hay source for the winter.
Nice.
And we also feed grain in the winter because we're far enough north that winter can be cold.
Yeah.
And they're out there. They need the extra fat, so they get grain. And during the summer, it's real easy. Like you go check on them once every couple of 3 days and make sure they're not in anything they shouldn't be. And then wintertime, it's every day you got to go make sure they're fed and watered.
Yeah.
If it's cold, you got to make sure the de-icers are working so they can get to water.
Oh yeah. Right. Have you ever slaughtered one that you really didn't want to because you loved it?
Bambi is delicious.
I know, but I feel like I would get attached to a cow. They're so cute.
I have this really macabre thing about raising meat animals.
Yeah.
My cattle are named after cuts of beef. I've had T-bone, I've had porterhouse, I've had Wellington, and prime, as in prime rib.
From
This year we kept some lambs off, and one's named Lamb and one is named Chop.
Okay, fair enough. Makes it easy.
It's food, and that way when you're working them, like my mom helps a lot with them. We can say, "Oh, did you see Lamb or Chop is limping or whatever," and then we know which one it is and kind of keep an eye on it.
Gotcha.
They kind of get nicknamed. It's kind of like three gunners. You're like, I've swatted with you before, and I can't remember your name, but I know you shoot something odd like an Og sire, and you'll be like, "Hey, Augie," something, things get nicknames, kind of just however.
Yeah. What do you wish more people knew about having livestock? Having them butchered properly, having them well fed, maintained, and stuff. What do you wish people knew, especially like any stigmas out there?
I grew up in a place where pigs outnumber people about 9-1.
Oh, wow.
Big commercial hog, commercial, quote unquote, commercial, because they are businesses.
Yeah.
But they're family owned businesses. And that, people get upset about, the farrowing crates and all this. And I'm like, you've never worked in an industrial hog building.
Yeah.
Like, livestock is brutal to each other. They'll, anything different, they'll single it out and kill it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it, particularly poultry and birds.
Yeah, they're mean.
Yeah. Birds are brutal, mean little monsters.
Yeah. And I mean,
but I wish people knew how much work and care. Like, it's not like, oh, you're leaving them in these filthy conditions. Like, there's just a certain amount of dirt that goes with it. It's livestock. It's going to be dirty sometimes.
Yeah. Pigs enjoy that.
Oh, yeah. Well, they wallow and it keeps the flies off of them and keeps them cool.
Yep.
But people don't realize, like, it's a lot of work.
Oh, it's a ton. And you have to be up early and then you have to be home and you can't go traveling. And I'm sure finding babysitters isn't fun.
Yeah, it takes coordination to do any kind of traveling. Like when I go to matches, I have 2 dogs and 2 cats that have to be checked on top of my cows and sheep and birds. And, it's just every day something has to be done on the farm to make sure that you're ready for winter when it gets here.
Yeah.
Because when winter gets here, you're not going to be taking that 20-foot trailer up the road to be picking up 8 round bales.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
You gotta
Like
store
it just, it's all about planning, and it's a lot of work. No, I don't think people realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So how to, once you have a cow quartered and cut up and butchered and all that, how long does like one meat cow last you?
We're feeding about we feed anywhere from like 6 to 10 people. A cow will last us usually about a year and a half, depending on size of the cow. And you got to have the storage space. So we all have deep freezers. My aunt is my next door neighbor. My mom lives across the road. So we all live right here, and it's pretty easy for us to, go pick, divvy up the meat and throw it in different freezers, and we're ready to go.
I like that. Yeah, I had to buy a deep freezer after I killed my first buck this fall. So I have a deep freezer in my kitchen. So I don't have a garage, and it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's where my deep freezers are. They're in my garage. Mostly because my house is really old, and the wiring, I just don't know what would take it.
But yeah, that's important. Okay, switching gears slightly too. I want to go back into the like honey. So you harvest honey or bees, or you're a beekeeper, right?
Yeah, I just started keeping bees this year. Kind of fell into it. A buddy of mine got hurt on the farm, and he's got about 70 hives.
What? So that's 70 queens, 70 hives.
Yeah, and some of them are huge. Like they're taller than I am.
What?
Yeah.
How much land do you have to
But
have 70 hives on?
You really don't want more than about 24 per 3 square mile.
Yeah.
Because anymore, the bee will only go 3 miles to find food.
Right.
Only forage for 3 miles. Then they get to the point they're robbing out, or they're starving out and not having enough to hunt or enough food. Hi, Mac.
So do you?
I've got one hive, and yeah. So my buddy broke his wrist, and had to have surgery in this whole deal. And he's like, I got these bees I got to work, and I've always kind of been curious, so I borrowed a bee jacket and some gloves and started learning to keep bees.
So when you transport it, I've heard that you have to keep the queen with the hive. It's not that great relocating them. Like, how did you do all that?
A lot of it's done in cardboard boxes, to be honest.
Yeah.
We caught some swarms this year that were pretty good size. There's specialized boxes that we can put the frames in for them. And wherever that queen goes, they'll follow.
Right.
So when they're swarming, they're pretty docile. Now, when they've got a nest or a hive, they can get hot and a little aggravated.
Like territorial?
You can actually get what's called a hot hive, and they'll actually go after you and chase you.
Oof. Okay. Not fun. Not fun.
But most of them are really calm. Like, unless you drop them, they're usually all right. Like,
gotcha.
Unless you really do something wrong.
When you say frames, are you talking about you're like sliding those inserts in?
Yeah, those pieces that slide down into the boxes, those are frames. And this year we had horrible luck with our bees in general in our area. A lot of queens failed, and I was queen right, and then my queen died, and we're not sure why. And I requeened them, and that queen laid drones for a while and then died. Not sure what happened with her. So I lost my hive this year, but I want to go ahead and extract all the honey because I probably got about 80 pounds of honey in it.
From one hive?
One hive. Normally they need 80 pounds of honey to make it through the winter.
Okay.
So the big hives, you can get several 100 pounds, you can get 100 pounds of honey out of a big hive.
It's crazy cool. When you say requeen too, like how do you find a queen and pick a queen and requeen a
You put an ad on Craigslist. No.
how do you do this?
Go down to your local club. You can buy them, you can draft them, you can kind of force them to take a new queen.
Okay.
There's different ways of doing it. Usually we just kind of integrate her in, and because the guys I'm doing it with, we really are focusing on bees from and for this area.
Gotcha.
Like there's different kind of bees. There's Italians, there's Russians, there's Japanese, there's the dreaded Africanized honeybees, there's African honeybees,
Yeah.
and they all have different pluses and genetics. Big thing right now is Varroa destructor mite. Russian bees developed in Siberia alongside the mite, so they're more mite resistant.
Okay.
So you want to introduce some of those genes, and we're trying to get genes and wild bees for our area.
When I know like I have allergies, right? And so I buy I want to say Tupelo honey. Does that sound correct? For like that's local, so that way
Yeah.
Okay. Is that similar? Like you want to have honey that's local because you're literally ingesting the allergies or allergens or whatever in the community.
Yeah, you're getting the nectar from those. It's a real complicated process is how bees make honey.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. Like when they come in, they dance. And it sounds insane, but they get on the landing board and they'll sit there and wiggle and flap their wings, and they do this little dance, and it tells the others where to go to find that food source.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing they use is pheromones, particularly to defend the hive. You'll run into pheromones.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea is it just helps your allergies. I don't know that there's any hard science behind that, whatever hard science is these days. Yeah. I mean,
it's cool though. Did you what?
We do a whole nother show on what is science and what is not.
I know. I was thinking like Cheerios, they do the little wild flowers, like plant those. Do you plant those and are intentional about some of the stuff that you have around them?
To some extent. I live where we have so much forage for them. I mean, I live in farm, like row crop country, so
yeah,
it's beans and corn, and I try to make sure I've got clover, but that's also is for part of my feeding program for my animal livestock. So it kind of all ties together, because if I've got clover, then the bees have something to feed on, and they're making more clover for the animals to eat.
Yeah, it's a full life circle. What is it? Yeah, circle of life.
The circle of life.
Immediately what came into my head. So I have had the honeycomb itself. Like that tastes good.
Oh yeah, combed honey is the best.
A lot of
especially
people
first thing in the morning. You gotta get used to chewing that wax though.
Yeah, it's
that
a little
can be a little off-putting.
but it is good. So how do you yeah, I'm gonna ask you this. So how do you actually get the hive honey into the jars and get it all out of there?
Well, you take what's called a hot knife. You take the frames out and get all the bees off of them. You take a hot knife and you cut the cappings off, because the bees will naturally put a wax cap on. So you cut that off with the hot knife and you put it in what is called an extractor, but it's basically a centrifuge. And if you've got the old one, you have to sit there and crank it. And when my buddy started doing it and I started learning about it, he's got 4 kids. So guess what the kids got to do? They got to crank it. And now we've got one that's we plug in and it's much easier, run it, and honey goes down into the bottom, and you run it through some sieves to get all the cappings and miscellaneous stuff out of it that's kind of in there, like chunks of wax, basically.
Yeah.
And then it winds up in a bucket, and you just run it into little jars.
I love it. That's so cool.
Here's a strange fact: the only thing you can bottle at home without FDA approved.
I didn't know that. Hey,
because it's naturally antimicrobial and antiviral.
that's amazing. Bees are amazing. They're good for everything, the habitat in the world. And I love local honey. I just think that whole process is so cool. I know a couple of friends that have had, their little cardboard box with a little lid for their beehive, and they've painted them before. they're cute.
Oh yeah, and it's fun, and it's really not a lot of work to raise bees.
Yeah,
they're pretty self-sufficient, and you get the benefits of honey, and it also, I got a couple around the house. I figure if anybody's running around there at night that shouldn't be, knocks one of those over.
Yep.
Well, I'll call the ambulance for you. That's
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, that's your segment on honeybees, guys. And now you know how to do it, sort of. My favorite part that I've been waiting to get to, I saved it for last. RO war stories.
RO war stories.
Yeah. So can you put a number on how many matches you think you've worked?
Lord, I don't know. The last couple of years, I've worked 3 majors in 6 weeks, just because of the way the scheduling works. I usually work Gen 3, the Pro-Am at Clinton House that Donnie Flo does, and Memorial out in North Carolina. Memorial 3-gun foundation match. I've probably, over the years, RO'd or worked on the range dozens of different matches of different types, And some of it was like, a bunch of us got together and shot 22. You still have to have somebody out there that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And kind of keep an eye on everybody and be like, look, man, no, we're not shooting the steel plate at 10 yards with a 22. We're just not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think some of the war stories I've got.
Well, let's start this. What's been the hardest, competition that you've actually had to work, or, one of those things where ROs are putting in a ton of miles, or, having to run with shooters a bunch,
The old Pro-Am at Rock Castle.
Yeah.
That was a brutal match for range officers.
Terrain, elevation changes.
Well, and you could be out there in Thunder Valley running a stage and have no shade the entire day in August. I worked one stage that we were at what was called the Red Barn. No shade. We were out there, and you're running 350 shooters through in 2.5 days.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I mean, there's a lot to it. I didn't realize how much went into matches until I started ROing. Like, you don't see the ROs having meetings and going, all right, guys, remember, we've got 5 minutes. Get this from hammer down to hammer down. You got 5 minutes per shooter. Mm-hmm. So from the time I tell you to make ready until the time my next shooter comes up, I've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be like herding cats.
Yeah, I know. It always is like herding cats.
Yeah. Squad moms are awesome.
You're welcome.
When you get a good squad mom, it's like, now here's our order. And then you'll have that squad that's like, we don't know the order. We just come in shooting whenever. And I'm like, no, we're not having a CNRP.
Or they're not ready. They're not loaded. Yeah.
Yeah. If I have to keep telling you to get your stuff ready, we're going to start talking about handing out some procedurals.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you can be, like at the old Pro-Ams where it was 300 shooters. you start spending 7, 8, 9 minutes per shooter, all of a sudden you've lost hours, and there's no way to make it up. You only have so much daylight.
Yeah. People don't realize, like, I mean, think about if you collected a penny a day or doubled your penny every day, like that compound effect is a lot. And unfortunately, us three gunners, like, we don't pause for torrential downpours or for snow or for literally anything. We don't have the time. So, you pick your squad, you pick the time you shoot, and hammer down.
Yeah, the only thing I've ever gotten delayed with was, particularly at the old, we've had it happen a couple of times, is fog.
Oh yeah, you can't even see targets.
Yeah, like if it's a long range stage, there was one we shot last year. I think it was at Memorial, and there was 200-yard steel, and none of us could see it. We couldn't even see the 50-yard steel from the fog.
Yeah.
And normally it's not that foggy in that part of North Carolina, but it was for us on that particular day. I've RO'd in the remnants of a tropical storm or two. That's always fun. And chiggers. My goodness, can you get chiggers?
Yeah. Sunburn.
Particularly if you've got like a jungle run stage, you better douse yourself in deep.
Yeah, and check yourself for real. There's been ticks and stuff. Yeah, sunscreen and hydration and food. There's a lot that ROs have to consider. So if you're listening to this, volunteer for a match or two.
Yeah. I think everybody should have to RO at least one match in their day.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I've had people get, like, new shooters get Twitter pated because they don't know what's happening. And all of a sudden, like, they've made ready and they've not been given the command. And you got to, like, pull them aside and be like, okay, I know this is your first match. You kind of have to walk them through it.
Yeah.
And, we're people too. And I've definitely made some bad calls, and, and I've had other ROs I was working with make a bad call that, yeah, you can do that. Well, no, in the rule book it says you can't, but you told them yes, and they did it. We get to make that mistake all weekend.
Yeah.
Because once you do it for one,
you have to do it for the rest.
You got to make it the same for every shooter. I'm
shocked at the amount of not just ROs, but the amount of shooters that shoot even at a high level who have never read cover to cover the rule book, right? Like there's like there's rules in there too where a stage cannot be all shot with one gun in some rule sets. You have to shoot two gun. That's the whole point of those 3-gun rules, right? So read the rule book.
Shoot in a particular order.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, oh, well, now if you want to shoot shotgun first, you can. And then go to your pistol and then to your rifle, or you can start with your rifle and go to your pistol. There's so many iterations of that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, read rule books, especially if you're going to a major out of town. Read the rule book, read the division rules.
Yep.
I've seen so many people show up and think they can use a bipod. I'm like, no, that puts you in open. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, bipods are open gear.
Yep.
You want to run a bipod, that's fine, but you're going to be running with those guys running dissident magazine fed shotguns, red dots on their pistols, and 2 or 3 optics on their rifle over that bipod. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, you can do that. So read the rules. There's different rule sets, and read the division, and maybe not just the division that you're in, but like maybe, if you're bringing a friend or a buddy shooting this thing, like look out for each other. Right. Because that's a lot.
Yeah. And you probably know more about it than I do, but like high cap and low cap rules, it could be really easy to
bump.
With our shotguns and 3-gun, mine will hold, I can get, I think, 14 in it.
Yep.
Pack optics division, the capacity is 9.
Yep. And I'm counting shots.
Yeah.
And one that you accidentally loaded over capacity and you are in open.
Yeah. And, we've all done the thing where we start and we cram 4 more in there and keep going in our outlaw matches. And in some matches, you can never exceed
8 rounds or something. Yeah.
8 or 9 rounds in the shotgun at any given time.
Yep. Yeah. So
that used to be a big thing, like back in the 3-gun nation days too.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember they would check shotguns too for plugs sometimes too, to make sure you only had 8 in that tube. And then 1 in the chamber. So, I have to ask, what's the worst DQ you've ever had to RO?
I've only had the one where the guy lost his pistol.
Okay. Well, then you were lucky, because did you see my video from Two Gun Nationals ROing?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, loaded gun just falling off because we had to gamer stage it for that much more oomph on the top of it, and just floop. If I see bullet heads and tips and SBRs falling on the ground pointed at me, I'm not a happy camper.
Yeah. Not going to be a happy camper at that point.
No. I remember a Three Gun Nation one. I had this X stage, and you have to run in lines, in Three Gun Nation. Again, read the rules. So
Yep.
bounds. So you had to go from this X tip down and back up. And legit, I just had a whole shooter completely turn with the gun the same direction, point straight at me at the X. I was like, we're done. We're done here for the day, for the match. So
yeah, I've heard of some close calls, but never on my stage. And
you're lucky.
knock on wood, I never have one.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, I'm only going to ask twice. The third time, you're getting tackled.
I hear you.
I mean, that sounds harsh, but we all, safety has got to be the first thing you think about when you're playing these sports. Like,
Yep.
We're running stuff can be very dangerous.
Yep. I think that's a good thing. And we talk about this throughout the podcast, several guests, of getting lackadaisical about your safety habits. Okay. Like, oh, I'm around guns every day, whatever. And you just kind of point it wherever and put it wherever. And honestly, that's going to where mistakes happen. Right. So we're thinking big boy rules, respect the firearms. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. It doesn't matter if you touch a gun every single day. You're a gunsmith. I'm pretty sure you probably check if a gun's clear 7,000 times, even every single time you put it back down and pick it back up. Right.
I've had closer calls in my shop than I have on the 3-gun or in any kind of competition.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people bring in a gun and they're like, well, it didn't fire, and they're flagging me with it. And I'm like, dude, put it down and step back.
Yeah.
Like, it could be a hang fire. It could be empty. I don't know until I've checked it that it's empty.
Yeah.
And, accidents happen. I've only ever had one, maybe 2 NDs in 30 some odd years that I can remember. And one was I was practicing 3-gun at a buddy's house, and I'd been practicing running my match saver.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pointing off into a cornfield, trying to get used to, because we were switching shotguns just to make it fun. We'll like switch gear just to mess with each other. And I slid it in, and I was dry firing, and I slid it in and dropped it, and it went.
Boom.
But I was pointing off into a cornfield.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, and it was one of those, it was just a muscle memory thing.
Yeah.
And it can happen. That's why you got to, read the rule set, definitely. And you see something happening that shouldn't be happening, say something.
Yeah, it saves everybody. We're not out there to DQ people. Competitors should not be out there to DQ each other. We're really looking for safety.
No, I don't want to send anybody home. And I've had guys fall and ride that shotgun all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
And land on it and cut themselves, like to the point we were talking about making some sutures. And he said in my app, I said, no, he said in my VQ, I said, no, man, you rode it all the way to the ground. You never pointed it at anybody. You never lost control of it. And he was like, well, back home, I would have went home for that. And I was like, I don't know why.
Right.
I'll do everything I can to keep you in the match.
Yeah.
Because a big part of our rowing is public, customer service.
Customer service. We're customers. Shooters that pay our customers, whether you pay or not, a sponsored slot, whatever. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I'm not going to give you a bunch of leeway because you got a jersey either. In fact, I'm probably going to be a little bit harder on you because you should know better.
Yeah, we're like pro-ams. Donald Beer. He's got his shotgun at the make ready at high port, and beep, and like boom, bird shot off in the sky. Of course, that's a safe direction for bird shot, but on a pro level, and I'll give him hell for this, and he knows it. At a pro level, you probably shouldn't be ADing into the air at the beep and have your finger on the trigger. Like on amateurs, maybe, right? Like but it's tough. So
well, and nerves get us all, and
Yeah.
I've seen people like accidentally pop a shot off from transitioning to one knockdown to another,
Oh
and
yeah.
they will pop one off in between them, and they don't
Yeah.
even know they've done it.
Yeah.
Like
Or
they
into
don't realize they
barrels.
tables. There's been many a table that have, had holes shot in it over the years.
Yeah. So look around the range and you'll know what happened once you start to see
Oh
it.
yeah, you can always find the one dump bucket that's got shotgun fall on it, where someone discharged some bird shot into it.
Yep. Yep. Oh man. Who's your favorite RO to work with?
Like as a stage partner or as just in a match in general?
Well, whatever works. Whatever. Who's your favorite that comes to mind? Maybe both.
Mark Cronk, I don't know if you know him. He's out of Missouri. He RO'd Pro-Am last year.
Cool. Okay.
I met him. He was the other RO the first time I went out and shot Generation 3 gun. And we RO'd together in that tropical storm, and me with my rule book and my radio. Chris Wiseman?
Of course. Yeah. 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 And bless his heart, I hated watching Chris pace targets at a match. That was his whole job at a RO reset match, was to paste holes, which I think is a competitor's job, but I won't get into that.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah.
I can't think of any ROs I really dislike work. There's a couple, and I won't name names, that I'm like, oh yeah, please don't make me work with them. Like, I don't want to spend that much time in 3 days around them. And some of it, I'm sure they're perfectly good people. It's just a personality thing.
Yeah. That's what I was curious. Who you enjoy working?
I love working with like Bruce Davidson.
Oh God,
Dave
yeah.
Powers,
I would pay to work with both. Yeah, with both of them. They're a lot of fun.
Chad Francis.
Oh my
and
God.
Donnie Flo.
Can you imagine? You would get no
Eric
work.
Eckhart. I don't know if you know Eric or not.
He used to be it was match director, I think, of Memorial when I went and shot that.
Yeah, he was last year. I think he is again this year.
But yeah. You've worked a lot of good people.
Andy Horner. I never got to work any of his matches. Mike Sexton.
Oh, great dude. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite RO stories was we had somebody discard gear. And it's said in the rules, you may not discard anything.
Right.
It was chest rig.
Yeah.
So he got, I think it was a 10 or 15 second procedural for it, for discarding gear. I mean, it was a nice whack.
Yeah.
And the guy got really angry with me. And he said, well, who's range master? And I was like, oh, so-and-so. It was Dean DeTurk. I don't know if you know Dean.
I don't.
Dean is a school teacher, one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet, but he looks like Captain Caveman.
Captain who?
Caveman from the cartoons. Like, he bench presses over 400 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the contestant decides to argue with Dean DeTurk. And then when he didn't get his answer he wanted, he decided to go argue with Mike Sexton.
Oh, I know how that ended. Not well. Okay. I've seen Mike get heated. Yeah.
Mike put his foot up on the table and told him he could, get his gear and go to the next stage or depart from the range. And it was not it was Marine terms how he told him it. And that was the end of the discussion. And that was his two choices. Either get his stuff and go to the next or get off the range. You
need range masters like that too, though.
It amazed me though that someone would argue with these two men.
Yeah. Well,
Mike Sexton really Mike can't hear what you're saying, so he really doesn't care. Huh? What? I've worked with some great match directors that give the ROs, they back us and say, you guys see it.
Yeah.
And I've reversed calls. Like, if you got video and you can show me that I called that hit wrong, I'll gladly take that penalty out.
Yeah. We're not, I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand. these matches are not going to be fair. We're not going to get 100% things right, whether I'm an RO or you're an RO or that competitor was an RO. It's just like any other sport, right? There's going to be discrepancies. We're doing our best. We're running, like you said, 500 shooters in 2 days, right?
And you're tired, and
And we're
you may
and
or
I
may
and
not
I
be hungover
yeah,
and
we're still
dehydrated.
priding ourselves on doing the right thing and doing our job and
Yeah,
stuff.
you know you're going to make mistakes, but you do your best to get the calls you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you say, "Oh, I definitely knocked that skill down," particularly with some of the flipper targets,
Yeah, yes,
that like to pop back up.
Yep. I had that on a
You
video
know,
once. I was the only RO doing that again, that X stage, and it was shotgun on those. And one of them had come back up and flip up. But I mean, while I'm trying to watch the gun and making sure it's pointing the right direction, I'm not looking at these targets every single individual. Yeah, and that
well,
happens.
and sometimes you're like, oh, this one's bladed just right that I know I'm going to take some ricochet off of it. And I don't know any RO that's not picked bird shot out of some part of them.
Yep.
Like, have you really RO'd if you've not been spattered with bird shot?
Yep. I get shrapnel all the time. What's the dumbest thing you've ever seen a competitor do?
Seen several people blow the bottom out of barrels and sleds, dump sleds, the dump flats,
Yeah.
the rifle boards.
Yep.
One thing you see a lot is people changing their gear like at the match or like the night before. It's like, oh, I just put on this new optic. Is it zero? I bore sighted it. Oh, let me tell you what, I bore sighted some stuff and it been 6 inches off before.
Right. Yeah. My Atlas, like, getting ready for this match, I just got a new mag release, and because I'm not hitting it fully all the way down because it's so far out. And then I dumped my own self shooting pew on the ground, right? So I got a shorter one. But I put it in, I took it right back out because you shouldn't change anything before a major. That's what you're used to. That's what you should run, whether it's conducive or not. Go out and test the new product later. That's not the place for it. So
yeah, and I broke my safety in the middle of a match and had to change it, and that was not fun. It was a rifle safety, so it wasn't that bad, but it was still like, oh man, because my other one was all broken and nice and smooth, and this one wasn't all broken. It was a little bit slower on the. I try not to change. I've done bad things to equipment too.
Yeah. Last thing on this section too, how can shooters be safer and work with ROs better so everybody's happy?
Be patient. I mean, that's a big thing. We're out there working, and it's not always fun.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Any final thoughts, Josh, that you want to leave people with?
Not that I can think of, other than keep the powder dry, and stay safe out there, and if you see me in a match, say hi. I may or may not remember who you are because I see 300 shooters every match I go to, or 150, and it's like after a while, it's just kind of like, oh, no, don't remember your run because I've seen the same stage shot 300 times.
True that. Oh man. Any shout outs you want to give to sponsors or companies out there that are doing good?
I'm self-sponsored through my company, J.M.B gunsmithing.com. You can find me on Facebook under my name or J.M.B Gunsmithing until they nuke that account. I keep fighting them every time I get it back. You can find me on Instagram under, I believe it's J.M.B Gunsmithing.
Awesome. And what services do you offer as a recap? So if people need something, what do you do?
I do a little bit of everything. I'll headhunt rare guns. I do repairs. I do parts. I do refinishes. I have built 2011s. I've built ARs. I've done stock jobs. I've done bedding jobs.
So pretty much ask, and the shop probably will be there.
Yeah. And if I don't do it, I have like hot bluing. I have places I send it.
Yeah, we know people. You know the best.
Yeah. And it's, the price will drop your jaw, but it'll be the best bluing you've ever seen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Josh, thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your knowledge. And I just think it's really cool, all the different things that you do. And I hope one day I have my own livestock and bees and I'll come consult you.
Sounds good. You'll have to come shoot some birds and
Yes.
shoot some of these oddball rare things I've got. Might
Oh,
even
I
put the
love it.
416 out there for you and see how far it'll knock you back.
Oh, heck yeah. We'll get that on slow-mo.
We'll do it at 5,000 frames per second.
Heck yeah. It's a lot of cool. Yeah, I want to go upland bird hunting. I want to check that off. I want to do everything. So count me in.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. See you at the next 3-gun match, I'm sure.
You'll see me, depends on when this comes out, at Gen 3 Pro-Am in Memorial this year.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And thanks for all your work that you do ROing. I know it's not easy. So thank you.
Oh, I love doing it.
Me too. It's a lot of fun. You get to hang out with everybody.
Yeah, you do.
So awesome. Well, thank you for listening and tune in to our next episode on the Reticle Up podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.